No, 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 no! Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Better Call Saul Season 6, Episode 3, Rockin' Hard Place. This video is part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Better Call Saul, so I have to start with a spoiler warning for Season 6, Episode 3. If you haven't seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, yeah. What? Alright. Let's not beat around the bush here. Nacho's dead. Like that shocked the hell out of me. I was like, throughout the entire episode, even though they're saying, they're telling me over and over again Nacho's gonna die, I'm like, nah, he's not gonna die. Like, they're gonna figure out some way, because he can't die. Like, he's a main character and he's important to the show. Remember, Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad said, it wasn't me, it's Ignacio. So clearly he can't die because we need some resolution to that. Poof. Dead. Oh my god. And it's funny because it's kind of meta the way that Juan was like, there's a good death and there's a bad death. I want to give you a good death. And he had a very good death. But shit. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, okay, so I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. It wasn't me, it was Ignacio. Did Lalo send you? So if you don't know what I'm referring to, there's the first episode that Saul Goodman appears in Breaking Bad, which is called Better Call Saul. Jesse and Walt take him out to the desert, and they're wearing ski masks, so you can't see their face, and he ties him. They tie him up and put him near a ditch in the middle of the desert, so he thinks that someone's gonna kill him, and he starts speaking Spanish, and he's saying, first of all, he's saying, I'm a friend of the cartel. And then he says, it wasn't me, it was Ignacio. And then Jesse tells him to shut up and to speak English. And he says, what, Lalo didn't send you? And they're like, no, who the hell's that? There was just, Walter White dealing with his shit. So, why is he saying it wasn't me, as Ignacio, if Ignacio, which we've known this whole... In fact, they built this whole entire character for 6 seasons off of this one line of dialogue from Breaking Bad. One of the most dynamic, complex, and really well drawn out, interesting characters came from one line of dialogue. And he's dead. So, but I can square it, and the fact that seeing other parts of this episode kind of give me a theory or an inkling of where they might be going with this. Because Nacho doesn't necessarily need to be alive for Saul to blame something on him. And he is a well-known betrayer, a well-known rat. And in fact, it's clear because Saul says to Walter, did Lalo send you? So it's clear he thinks they're the Salamancas. And the Salamancas clearly do not like Nacho. Which you see in the end of this episode as a bit of an understatement. So it might be in his best interest to blame him, even though he's already, Nacho's already dead. Now, why would Saul think the Salamancas would blame him for something? Well, we get hints of that in this episode because there is the Saul storyline where there's that lawyer DA goes to Kim and tells him that they figured out that the Guzman, the client that Saul Goodman was representing, is in fact Eduardo Salamanca, I believe his name is, Lalo. And that's, he's a member of a cartel. They've found him dead in Mexico. And they're urging Saul to come forward with more information. So, my theory, or what I could surmise of how this could still make sense, that line in Breaking Bad, is that Saul does in fact go to the DA and tell them about Lalo and the Salamancas. And that's sort of hinted at at the end of this episode when Kim says, do you want to be a friend of the cartel or do you want to be a rat? So I think he chooses to be a rat, which is why he's scared of them. Because he thinks that they found out that he's a rat. And so he tries to blame the ratting on Nacho. He's trying to say, so him saying it wasn't me, it was Ignacio, saying I didn't go to the DA, I didn't go to the police, I didn't go to the DA, that was actually Nacho who did it. It wasn't me, it was Ignacio. When he knows it was him. And he's afraid that Lalo's going to send men to kill him because he ratted on him. And this is kind of, if you've seen the preview for the next episode, they kind of hint that he's going to get a lot of pressure to inform on Lalo. So I think he's going to succumb to that pressure. So that would still fit. Despite the fact that Nacho's dead, that would explain it. Now, I could be wrong, but it does look to me that that's probably the direction they're going to go to. Which also implies that we're getting really close to Breaking Bad times, because this incident must have been somewhat recent for him to still be terrified of it at this stage. But, Saul Goodman has some more character development to go through before he becomes the scummy scumbag that he was in Breaking Bad. So I don't know how close we are, but it seems like we are close. But anyway, let's talk about R.I.P. Nacho Varga, or Ignacio. One of the best characters in this whole, not just this show, but Breaking Bad, the whole Breaking Bad-verse, if you want to call it. He stands out as one of the best characters, one of the most well-developed characters in fiction. And he has a very tragic story because he hates being a gangster and he hates the things he has to do and he hates the crime life, and he's actually a really good person. And it's funny because I saw an interview recently with the actor who compared Nacho to Jesse Pinkman, and I think that's a very apt comparison. I think I've made that before. I think that Nacho is basically the Jesse of Better Call Saul, that he's the character who's actually innocent and good. But whereas, and not to spoil El Camino if you haven't seen that, Jesse gets a happy ending, Nacho does not. Nacho gets a very tragic ending where he sacrifices himself to save his father. He gives up his own life for love. And the scene where he was talking to his father, and his father, of course, had no idea what was going on, just saying, look, I told you to go to police, what else is there to say? And he's just like, I just want to hear your voice. Okay, and then when he says, yeah, you should go to police, he's like, you're right, Dad, you're right. Absolutely. But he knows it's the last time he's ever going to talk to him, ever going to hear his voice. And you can hear him. It's such an emotional, powerful scene. Oh, God, it's so good. Um, but damn, like, I was actually thought that Nacho was gonna try to find a way to stay alive. But he knew, like, from the get go, that that if he tried to stay alive, they would go after his father. And I like Mike's reassurance to Nacho when Nacho asks him, like, how do I know you're gonna keep your word? And Mike's like, because if they want to get to your father, they're gonna have to go through me, just flat out. and Nacho knows Mike well enough to know that he's sincere. Now, not Mike warned Nacho before, especially about the whole thing of what he did to Hector and how he caused this, and he, a lot of the things that happened to him were his own fault for getting himself involved with these people. And I think Nacho's come to realize that. And so, God, it was, again, a really powerful scene where Mike finds Nacho and gives him some. He's eating some food, but then Victor, being the asshole, comes by and is like, "Oh, he looks too pretty." And Mike's like, "Go away, I'll fucking take care of it." And then Mike comes in. Nacho knows what he needs to do. He's like, "All right, I look too pretty. You're gonna have to beat the fuck out of me. All right, let's get this over with." But first, Mike pulls out what I assume is a really, really nice, expensive drink. And he's like, first things first. And he shares a drink with Nacho. And then the scene cuts. And the ass beating takes place off screen. But you know that after they share, a drink of respect that Mike went out of his way to give to Nacho out of respect, he's the one that beats the shit out of him. Because it's probably better that it come from Mike than someone like Victor. And then they go to the meet where Nacho knows he's going to die, and Mike gets out of the car, and they have a nod of respect, of goodbye, knowing that it would be the last time they ever see each other. And then they go to the meet, and God damn it, again, an amazing scene where Nacho is just like, at first he didn't talk, and that was actually, it kind of sells it. And then when he blamed the Peruvians or whoever, first, Hector wasn't buying it, which he shouldn't. He kept pointing at Gus, and he's like, "You think it was the chicken man that did it?" And because Nacho is going out of his way to sell that Gus was involved, because he knows that he's giving his life for his father, so he wants to make damn sure it works. He wants to make damn sure that Gus is going to protect his father, and so he sells his heart out. And I don't think what he said is necessarily untrue. I think he was actually probably a bit cathartic for him to finally release him. Until, I hate you fuckers. I hated working for you. You fucking, and I'm the one that fucking switched your pills for sugar pills, and that's why you're fucking, in that chair and stroking. Just every time you're sipping through your straw, think of me. I'm like, fuck. It was so good. Such an amazing scene. As I said, the show gave this fictional character, a good death. But I'm just so upset that they killed Nacho, because he was such a good character, and you were kind of rooting for him. You didn't want him to have such a tragic ending. You didn't want this to end so horribly for him. And I wanted to see more of him, frankly. But, yeah, this will go down as one of the best storylines between both shows. And this was a powerful ending for it. And we'll see how it goes forward. And God, it was just, oh my God, it's just amazing the way that, after Nacho killed himself, the cousins wheeled Hector over so he could sit there and keep shooting him. See, I think that Hector bought it too. I think that he did actually sell Hector on the fact that he was the one responsible for all this shit and that he hated him. And partly because it's true. That's probably why he was able to sell it, because it's not, I don't think, a lie. So it will be interesting to see how this affects things going forward. Now, and this is interesting because a lot of Gus's storyline is prequelitis, because we know where it ends up. We know what happens to Juan. We know what happens to Gus. We know what he does with the cartels. So the big picture stuff we do know. We didn't know the small details of how Nacho factored in, how Lalo factors in, and stuff like that. And so there's still a few more of those minor details that could be fit into place. The bigger mystery for me is how Lalo is tied to Saul, and what is going to happen between Lalo and Saul. Is Lalo ever going to see Saul again? Is he going to actually visit him? What happens to Lalo? Is he still alive? Does Gus get the better of him as well? That's interesting inquiries right along with the Kim stuff. Now, Kim has always been a good influence on Saul. Sorry, switching tracks here to the other storyline, but this season she's clearly the bad influence on him, and I like that dynamic. And I think the show sold it. Like, even though she is, in some ways, arguably a better person, because she wants to give up this rich, this job that's going to make her tons of money in order to help people less fortunate. But she has this dark side. It's like it comes at a cost of, she wants, like, especially we saw the previous episode, the way she treated that silly couple, the way she treated them. Of course, they were scammers though, so she has no mercy for people who prey on the weak. And it's funny that she doesn't see Saul that way. She doesn't see him as someone who preys on the weak. Yeah, she's really being the bad influence and pushing him to be audacious. I love how that's the word you're looking for is audacious, and going through the scam with Howard, and we got this scene with the Huel. I fucking love Huel. Where Huel, pickpockets the key and has a key maker to make a copy of it, and they give it to him. And I love how that there's a nice scene where Huel, had a little time out with Saul. It's like, look, can I ask you something? Like, why are you really doing this? Like, what's in it for you? You got a legit job with all this legit money. And then Saul, very weak BS answer that Huel could, smell out immediately. Oh, we're doing a good thing. We're going to be helping a lot of people. Nah, it's for the thrill. That's the real answer. You're doing it for the thrill. Or at least Kim is doing it for the thrill. You're kind of doing it because it turns her on. And it strengthens your relationship. It's a very... And I stay true to this because I noted in earlier seasons that the Kim and Saul relationship is a very toxic one, and I stand by that. It definitely still is. It's more passionate at the moment, but in previous seasons it was like dying. It was dead. You could see that they didn't really care about each other anymore, but the way they keep it alive is by running scams, which is not healthy. It does not have a healthy foundation. And you see how... turned on Kim was when Saul mentioned this plan, like to use Huel, and how doing this sort of thing excites her. And it's not only unhealthy for Saul, it's also unhealthy for Kim. They're a bad influence on each other, I dare say. And so I know a lot of people were like, oh, it's so sad that the two of them are going to break up eventually, but I think it's probably the better thing, but we do know where Saul ends up. He becomes a much worse person after their time together, but we don't know where Kim Of course, you could always say, oh, maybe they didn't break up. But yeah, that's hinted at in the opening scene in the first episode of the season, that Kim definitely was not living at that house with the Colton toilet. So, yeah, it's clear that they broke up at some stage. When, how, why, what, still interested to find out, and that's why this show is so fucking great. Anyway, yeah, so I'm kind of dreading next week's episode in some ways, because I know it's going to deal with Saul being pressured into writing on Lalo, and I know he's going to. It's just, oh my god. But the show is just so good. It's just so good, I can't help myself. So, my rating for Rockin' Hard Place out of 10, I'm also going to give this one a 9. Yeah, God, I almost hate this episode for what they did to Nacho, but it's such great storytelling, such great acting, such amazing scenes. I can't be mad. I can't stay mad. This is just such a good show. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video, and please check out my channel as I cover many other shows. I continue to cover Better Call Saul, of course, and I also cover other shows like all things Star Trek, The Expanse, Star Wars Rebels, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.